Do you want to feel happiness more often, but you think that that's just not possible because life, it's always happening, right? Something's always happening. The car breaks down, you hit the traffic jam, there's always something happening, and you feel like it's just not possible to be happy, really happy right now because there's something in the way. And you'll be happy when, right? You'll be happy when dot dot dot. You get a new job, you get a promotion, you get a car, or get replace the car, or you get a new house. There's always something. And do you feel like you really want to have passion and freedom, and you want to feel like you're making progress, but that's not possible at this stage in life? And I want to tell you that in this video, we're going to talk about how that is possible and how you just need to reframe a few things to make that happen, and happen now, not when something else happens. So let's just talk about, your typical morning, right? You get up and there's a traffic jam. And so you get to work, you're a little late, and you get in, and the coffee machine is broken. And you're like, what the heck? Why didn't anybody tell maintenance that the coffee machine was broken? And then you go into a meeting, and you have one of those bosses that just loves to hear themselves talk, and they just go on and on unnecessarily. So now the meeting runs long, and you're behind in your tasks for the day, and then you wind up having to work late because that meeting ran wrong and pushed everything back. And you go home and you're like, I just had a bad day, but it wasn't my fault. I just, all these things happen, and it wasn't my fault, but this was just a bad day. I wish I had a do-over. Why does this keep happening day after day? And you just kind of feel like you're stuck in kind of Groundhog Day, like over and over and over. These things happen. Life just keeps happening. And that's just so frustrating, right? When you have this life that you envision, like there's something you just want, but there's all this stuff in the way of getting what you want. And none of this is your fault. None of this is in your control, right? You can't control the traffic. You can't control that the coffee machine was broken and no one told maintenance. And you certainly can't control your boss. It just goes on and on. And maybe these aren't the examples in your life, but I'm sure you can relate, right? These things just happen. Things run late, or packages that were supposed to arrive don't arrive, or there's just always something. And this struggle that you're feeling is like this resistance of like, when is this going to change? When is this going to happen for the better? And like, I remember thinking, once we hire this new employee, oh, I'll get the breath of fresh air because some of this workload will finally come off of my desk and onto their desk. But doesn't it inevitably, that new employee comes and now you have all this, oh, I can't wait till they're trained because you're spending all your time training them. And then something else happens. Like you don't even notice that the new employee is taking the workload off because some new project got dumped on you. And it's just constant, right? It's just, there's never an end to it. You feel like you're just kind of stuck in this, you don't even realize that one thing has been solved because the next thing has come piling onto it. And I know how I felt, and I'm sure you can relate that it's just, when does this stop? When is it enough? When do you finally get to come up for air? And that 2 week vacation really wasn't great. Actually, who gets 2 weeks, right? What am I talking about? That 1 week vacation wasn't that great because guess what? You got back and all that work was waiting for you, and it took you so many days to even relax. And then you get the text like, we're never actually on vacation, right? There's always somebody interrupting. There's always somebody calling. I remember I took a day off for my birthday of all things, and I remember this crisis blowing up at work, and I'm like, can I just have one day without all heck breaking loose and having to just get pulled out of my, good feeling mojo right back into it, get sucked right back into it? And there's always one catastrophe after another. There's always like, okay, when this issue gets cleared up, it'll be better. It'll be better. Or after this conference, like I was a meeting planner, so it's like after the conference, things will get better. And they never get better, right? Never, never. And what does that make you feel? Like after you go through all this, don't you just kind of feel powerless? Right? Like, life is just not going to get better because it's not in my control. If I was the boss of everybody, if I was the big boss, well, that would be different. Or, if you have older kids and they're like, they would just take, control of themselves and take responsibility for themselves, I could then take a breather. Or if your spouse would just do things. And there's always these feelings of, you can't make progress because life just keeps happening. And what happens when you do this? When it's just over and over, this repetitive feeling of not getting traction, you're always in wait mode, right? You're always waiting for that next thing to clear up, and you don't actually pursue your dreams because you feel like well, now's not the time. I can't go after my dreams now because this thing is happening and I'm waiting for that. So you're in wait mode, you put your dreams on the back burner, and eventually you just get to this point where life just feels dark, right? It just feels like you're waiting for that light at the end of the tunnel, but someone keeps moving the darn tunnel or making the tunnel longer and longer and longer. And that's just so not cool. And you wind up in this, if you're not thoroughly depressed, which that was something I was borderline depressed, but you just feel hopeless. Like you're so busy, you're running that hamster wheel, but there's no time to dream. And if there was time to dream, there's no energy to dream, right? So you capture these little moments here and there where you feel like, all right, I'll make a plan, and I know I want this promotion, or I know I want this new job, or I know I want to start this business, and you take a few little steps, but then life just happens, and again, it's not your fault, and off you go. You're stuck into this, again, this vortex where you don't feel control, and that is the biggest, saddest feeling that many women are feeling, and I know I felt it for so long. Life was just not in my control. I didn't have what I needed. I didn't have the space, the time, the energy to go after those dreams. And I hope in this video that we change some of that for you, and that you start to see that there's this term that gets bantered around a lot, taking 100% responsibility. And what does that mean? And how does that get you out of this feeling of powerlessness, this feeling of I don't have control, I can't do what I want to do? And that's, I want you to kind of move out of that. I want to help you see that light, that at the end of the tunnel, the light actually gets brighter, and that tunnel actually gets closer. So I'm Julianne Price with Life Edit and Design, and I help women who are determined to live a better life. And I help you edit out those worries and those obstacles, and I help you design in the joy so that you can live a better life. So if that appeals to you, hit the subscribe button. I'm here to help you, and I want that determination to go for good and not the determination just to survive, right? There's more to life than just surviving. That's a sad state of where we're all at, right? So let's talk a little bit about how, what does it really mean to take 100% responsibility? What does that look like? And, again, it gets thrown around so much, and I don't know that people even really understand what 100% responsibility actually means. So let's start with just a basic definition, and that's taking responsibility for all your decisions and your actions. So that doesn't mean you take responsibility for the weather, right? That hasn't changed. That's still not in our control. But how you feel about the weather, how you react to the weather, what that weather means to you, that is within your control. And that's what we're here to talk about. How do you start to get control over your life when there's so much in your life that obviously is out of your control? And I think the first decision that you need to make is to acknowledge that you and only you have the power to choose how you respond to different situations. And that choice that you make of your response has consequences, and those consequences kind of build upon each other, and that is really what your life becomes. It's your decisions and your choices about what things mean and how things are, and that then builds what your life is going to be about. So let's take this into real examples, because that sounds very fuzzy, but let's talk about the traffic, right? So you got stuck in that traffic jam. Could you control the traffic jam? No. Could you have maybe taken an alternate route? Maybe. But more than likely, you couldn't control the traffic jam, and there you are. You're stuck in this place where you now are going to be late to work. Well, what can you do in that situation? What's the choice that you're faced with while you're sitting in traffic? Well, the choice is, what does this traffic jam mean to you? Does it mean you actually have an extra 20 minutes in your day that you didn't know you were going to have to think? Like, you're stuck, you're in traffic, it's going 2 miles an hour, if at all. Well, what can you do with that? Can you reframe that to be like, no, I can hear myself think for the next however many minutes. I'm stuck in traffic, there's nowhere to go. No one can reach me maybe. Hopefully the office doesn't know you're stuck in traffic and they're not calling you. And you just have some time to listen. Or maybe you always have an audiobook on hand because you're like, you know what, if I get stuck in traffic, that's me time. I've just found a pocket of time where I have no other choice. I have to sit here, so I'm going to listen to an audiobook. Or maybe I'm going to listen to a podcast. Like, you get to make a choice of what that traffic jam means. when you get into the broken coffee machine, right? You can make a choice like, oh, that just wrecks my whole day. I don't have my coffee. Or you could look at it and go, huh, that's the universe telling me to drink more water today. So hey, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna take the challenge up, and I'm gonna focus on drinking more water. So there you go, more water. But again, you could be upset about the coffee. You could be upset that no one told maintenance, or you could say, hey, I'm going to make sure maintenance knows that the coffee machine is broken, and I'm going to take this as an incentive to just drink more water today. And maybe if I drink more water, I will be less edgy and I'll feel better and I'll get through the day. Maybe I'll be more alert. Who knows? Let's try it. You could be curious. You could be exploring. What does this mean that, I can't have my morning coffee or whatever? Or you could take it to mean, hey, I'm going to make a different decision. This is out of my control and I don't like that. So in the future, I'm just going to make my coffee and bring it. Like, these are different choices you can make. Instead of just being controlled by the situation and letting your mood go downhill, you could look at this as empowering to say, I'm going to make decisions for the future where I'm going to bring my own coffee. I'm going to take this moment now to interpret it differently and say, hey, I'm inspired now to drink more water or drink something healthier. Or maybe just cut down on coffee in general and kind of say, hey, this is that chance I've been looking for. I've been looking to cut back on coffee, so now here's that opportunity. The universe is speaking to me. Okay, you can look at life happening for you instead of to you. So what does it mean? What does it mean to get stuck in traffic? What does it mean that the coffee machine was broken? How can you turn that into something empowering and something that gives you control? Like, hey, there's a message. What can I do with it? And let's talk about your boss going on and on and on and on. You can't control that, right? You're stuck at a meeting, and some bosses just like to hear themselves talk, or maybe there's just someone else in the meeting that just hijacks the meeting and just talks and talks. Instead of sitting there and being frustrated, which I get it, I've been there, I know what that feels like. But instead, can you just be curious? Like, I wonder what's going on that they need to overtalk, they need to over-explain. Do they feel insecure about themselves? Or do they maybe lack trust in our ability as a team to handle the project? Or what's going on in their life that they need to justify their presence by hijacking the meeting, by talking so much? Like, what's going on here? And then you kind of look at that and say, well, how can I use that? What can I do with that? So maybe after the meeting, you see if you feel like it's a trust issue, can you build a relationship where they trust you more? If you feel like they're just insecure, what can you do to make them to compliment them and make them feel better? Just because they're the boss or just maybe a colleague, you could still have a role to help them feel better, help them have a better experience, and maybe help them feel more comfortable when they're in a meeting so they don't need to over-explain. You could just be curious about that, or just go, hey, I wonder what's going on in their home life that makes them feel this way, that feel that they need to take over this meeting, and just be curious. Maybe you don't do anything about it, but that curiosity, or maybe putting yourself in their shoes and saying, well, how would I feel if, what would I be doing? How would I, if I was over-explaining, what would be going on in my life that would cause me to do that? And just that curiosity starts to kind of decharge the situation, but also put you back into control, because now you're thinking, what could this mean? What could be going on in their life? What can I do to make this a better situation? I can't control their over-explaining, but I could control, maybe if it's a lack of trust, I could control, talk to them about trusting me more, or showing them more progress reports, or just something. What's in your control? Now you're taking back responsibility for what's going on. So again, the boss over talking wasn't your responsibility, but how you react to that, the decisions, what you make that mean. What do you feel like, okay, yeah, I know they have a lot going on in their life right now, and I'm just going to give them compassion, and I'm not going to roll my eyes like the rest of the room. And what can you do to support them? Because obviously they're going through something, or they feel some reason to hijack the meeting. There's something going on in their life that you're not responsible for, but you can perhaps share some kindness or share some joy, or make something better for them, and at the same time make something better for you. So do you see how those things start to, number one, make life more interesting, right? Because now you're like, looking for some other meanings going on here, and you're also now starting to take control. So life gives us so many opportunities. There's never a shortage of time to evaluate a situation and make a choice, make a decision, decide what it means to you, and then base some actions on that new decision. That brings that power back to you, and that's what 100% responsibility is really all about. It's not taking the blame or something like that and putting it on yourself. It's more taking charge, taking control, where in situations where you felt like maybe you didn't have control, now all of a sudden you do, because you're looking at something and you're not blaming the factors. You're not blaming anything. And now you don't have to play that waiting game quite so much. Waiting for the better job, waiting for things to change, waiting for the crisis to end and be on to something else. You can start to look at, well, how do I could take control of this situation? What decisions can I make that bring the best outcome for me? What can I control? I can control my attitude. I can control the meaning of the situation. I can control my perceptions of what's going on. And I can control how I feel. And maybe it's time to start feeling better and start looking for the choices that make you feel better. The traffic jam doesn't have to be this big negative thing. It'd be, wow, I just found 20 minutes of my day. What am I going to do with this extra time that I'm stuck in the car? But I could pick up the phone and call somebody. I could listen to a book, listen to a podcast, something. You can find joy in that traffic jam. And if it happens all the time, like, you ever notice when people, like, it starts to rain? We have one street, one major highway. As soon as it starts to rain, it's like everybody forgot how to drive, right? Well, that's going to happen. If you walk out the door and you see the rain, you're like, I know what it's going to be like. Everyone's going to be stuck on the bridge. Nobody's going to move. Well, that's your chance to say, I'm going to make sure I have a podcast already queued up so I can start listening because I know what's going to happen. That's when you start to take that 100% responsibility, and now you can start to control where life goes. And this might not sound like a big change, like, so I'm now, reading more meaning into things, or I'm now taking alternative actions. But they start to stack. And you start to feel better. And that's what this is all about, right? We talked in the beginning. You want to feel freedom. You want to feel passion. But you also want to feel progress. You want to feel like you're moving in the right direction. Well, starting to change what these little things mean, this little thing like the coffee machine being broken, to find a meaning, all of a sudden, everything starts to have meaning because everything has now become a choice. It's like all of a sudden you have a menu in front of you, like a menu, this magical menu just opened up. And you can start to look at everything and start to feel like choices. And if you believe in the universe interacting with you, which I so believe, and I hope as you're watching this, you know that the universe is there to support you, and it's guiding you, and it's sending you messages. And as you see that broken coffee machine, maybe you're starting to say, like, hey, this is the universe telling me something. I've been wanting to drink more water. I mean, maybe that's not your interpretation, but your interpretation can be something different, but it's still that the universe is talking to you, the world is talking to you, and it's up to you to be awake enough to start to say, hey, I can choose something different here. What I've been choosing, you could always choose what you've already been choosing. But is that getting you anywhere? Is feeling angry, feeling frustrated, feeling defeated, is that getting you anywhere? You have these other choices. Why not pick a different choice? Why not feel empowered? I mean, it's not a better choice. I would take that any day of the week. So my call to you, my message to you here is choose better. Choose wisely, choose the things that are going to bring you joy, because choosing what you have been choosing, the frustrating, the anger, that's not getting you anywhere. And you're here to live a life of happiness, and it's in your control. And isn't that a better message? Like, life's not happening to you. It's not beating you up. It's not pushing you down. It's offering you opportunities to say, hey, wake up, make a better choice, make what makes you happier. Choose those things, choose the empowering things, and then choose control, choose you. So I hope that this has given you some inspiration and kind of some ideas. So you get to experiment, right? Life is just going to keep on happening to you. That's never going to change. But now you have it as a playground of, well, what can I make this mean? And you have this whole buffet of choices. So I hope that you start to choose differently. And taking 100% responsibility is just the first step towards living your best life. But there's so much more to it. We've just kind of scratched the tip of the iceberg here with just getting you a concept of how life can be different. And if you truly want to regain control over your life and really live with that passion and that freedom, I invite you to check out a course that I have called Own Your Future. And it's really about giving you the guidance to design your life, and not just any life, but an epic life. I mean, wouldn't that be cool to live an epic life? Like, doesn't that sound so magical? That gives you goosebumps? Well, that's what Own Your Future is all about, is helping you open your eyes. It's really not that complicated. It's an awareness thing. It's about, it's not about learning 20 skills. It's about opening your eyes and making different choices. And it changes the whole world. Once you start to see things differently, you start to see a whole different way of living. And my message to you is, it's not that complicated, it's not that hard, and it's not something you need 20 degrees to do. You can start doing this. I want you to take the course and start living your best life right now, because as you can see, you can make that choice about that coffee machine like that. You just change your mind and everything changes. Well, that's what this course is all about. It's not this long, lengthy course. It's really about helping you make those quick shifts, that all those ahas, like, oh my God, I get to choose what this means. And choosing what I have been choosing has not been serving me. So why not choose something different? Why not own my future and make it what I want? Because living an epic life, wow, right? That is cool. That is what I want, and that is what I want for you. So down in the links below, you'll find a link to the Own Your Future course, and I hope that I see you there. And either way, I hope that you just start taking better choices, making better choices, taking the opportunity to wake up and say, hey, this isn't what I want. I want something different. And once you make that, the whole world changes. It's just that little bit of shift. So I hope to see you there and have a great day.